Okay, so this is a quick video for my social media students. It's just to show you a little bit about how I want you to proceed when you're doing your social media exploration, and to give you an idea of how you might want to take notes or make observations while you're doing your social media exploration so that you can write your final post. So what you're looking at here is a page that I recently created Wednesday in order to have an identity for my sociologist side, if you will, to have a site that's dedicated to things I want to share with people that I don't necessarily want to share as my personal self, that I would like to share as somebody who's commenting as a sociologist. So you can see I've set up the website here. I've got a nice little quote from Pierre Bourdieu in the background, Pierre Bourdieu being one of my favorite theorists. Kind of a very pretentious looking profile picture. I'll replace that at some point. I just don't really have a good picture to replace it with yet. And so what I want to do, if I was to do a social media exploration with this, is I'd want to think about things that I'm doing from a sociological point of view while I'm using this media. So the first thing I would want to kind of think about is, who am I using this site to reach? And you can see there's a nice little box on Facebook. And just as an aside, the reason I'm using Facebook here is because I know none of you are going to be using it. I didn't want to give anybody kind of an unfair advantage by using a site that you're using in your projects. Anyway, but back to this whole box right here. So this box allows me to invite my friends to like my page, which is essentially allowing them to follow my page, get updates from it, get content from it. And so when I was going through, I looked at all my friends, and I had to select who I wanted to invite to be involved in this particular page that I'm doing. And so I had to think, what friends do I want to share sociology content with? And perhaps more importantly, what friends do I not want to share sociology content with? So, maybe those are two different pieces of my network. Maybe I'm personal friends with somebody who I don't want to be talking to about sociological issues. Maybe I know there will be disagreement there that I'm not going to want to deal with. Maybe I know there are some people who will troll, if you will, and just use these kinds of posts to launch in a tirade about their own personal views without really engaging with the questions. And so that's an important thing to think about sociologically, because this is a process we do every day. We select what kinds of people we want to share certain information with, and what kind of people we don't want to share that information with. And so if I was going to write anything in my final post about that, I'd want to look at that. I'd want to talk about what are the processes we use to select who we share information with? What does that look like in terms of network? Does that mean that the people I'm associating this page with constitute a separate network from my friends? Or, since most of the people who are seeing this right now are my friends, do they exist in a certain part of my network? And if so, what does that piece of my network look like? And I'd want to talk about that, just using the content from the book, maybe talking about things like bridging connections in a network. Some of my friends who see this page may be connected to people I'm not sharing it with, so they may ask people to like it. And so I'd want to talk about, how do I want to be aware of that? Do I need to be aware of that? The other thing I'd want to look at, besides just who I'm sharing this page with, are what are the things that I'm trying to communicate here in general. Well, first of all, we can see that I'm trying to communicate things that, at least to me, have some sociological importance. So, the most obvious thing on the page is just my opening statement, where I talk about how sociology is a martial art. That's a famous Pierre Bourdieu quote, where he talks about the fact that we use sociology to defend ourselves and our perspectives without having a right to use it to make attacks on other people's views, to take pot shots at people, if you will. So in other words, this is something I'm sharing to kind of get at an insight that I have or a perspective I have. And why am I doing that? So there's a little self-analysis there. Am I trying to present a self here that I want people to understand as taking on these values? And if so, why? Why would that be important? That's a question I might want to ask when I'm writing my final post. So continuing. So I post this little ditty right here, this article about Texas's new textbook issue, where they are doing some things at the political level to try and shape what textbooks are going to look like in Texas. And so I would ask myself, why is that a sociological issue? Am I trying to share with my network that this is an important issue to me as a sociologist, that somehow this is connected to that? And how am I doing that? Well, if you see this post, I saw this on one of my friend's wall this morning, and hint that maybe there's an ongoing power discourse or a kind of underlying debate over power. And so what am I suggesting there to my network? Am I trying to lead them towards a certain point of view? And why am I doing that? So you notice that a lot of the questions I'll be asking myself are, why am I doing this? Why is this happening? Same story here. Why is this a sociological post? And what am I trying to accomplish with my network by showing this? And on and on and on you go. So what you'll do when you're doing your social media exploration is you'll constantly ask yourself questions about why or how you're participating in that community that you've chosen to participate in. And you'll ask yourself that question about other people as well. Like, what is this person trying to accomplish? Is there a presentation of self that they're trying to accomplish? And if so, why this particular kind of presentation of self? You also want to look at things like capital, social capital. How could your social media site be used to accomplish building some social capital? In the case of this site, I think the motive is pretty clear. I'm trying to create a sociology identity for myself that, maybe if I'm applying for a job at some point or trying to get credibility with somebody, I can point them towards this page and show them, look, I'm very active on Facebook, sharing sociological information and being a good public communicator of sociology. So how might that build my social capital? Who follows who and why do they follow them? So I hope this has been somewhat helpful to you as you're doing your social media exploration. As always, if you have questions about what you're doing, feel free to email me. Remember, I do have a 48-hour rule. If you email me, give me 48 hours to respond before you start emailing me again and wondering why I haven't gotten back to you. And good luck.